So let us dive into what is really going on inside your amazing brain. Have you ever found yourself staring at a task, knowing you need to do it, knowing it would be better to just get it done, but somehow you just cannot start? Maybe it is that important email, a project deadline looming, or even just clearing out that one overflowing drawer. You vow to do it tomorrow, then tomorrow comes, and the task still sits there, untouched, a silent, nagging reminder. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we consciously choose the path of future stress and last-minute panic when the alternative seems so much simpler? For a long time, we have been told that procrastination is a sign of laziness, a lack of discipline, or even poor time management. But what if I told you it is none of those things? What if it is something far more complex, a deeply ingrained neurological response, a way your brain is actually trying to protect you? Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on the real neuroscience behind avoidance, and trust me, it is going to change the way you think about putting things off. Imagine this scenario. You have a big presentation due next week. It is important for your career, and you have all the information you need. You sit down at your computer, ready to begin, but then a wave of discomfort washes over you. Maybe it is anxiety about public speaking, a fear of not being good enough, or simply the sheer boredom of formatting slides. Suddenly, checking social media seems like a much better idea. Or perhaps organizing your spice rack becomes an urgent priority. You tell yourself, I will do it later, when I feel more motivated. But that motivation often remains elusive. The hours tick by, the deadline draws closer, and the stress intensifies. You feel guilty, frustrated, and even angry at yourself. This cycle is painfully familiar for so many of us. In the modern world, with endless distractions and constant demands on our attention, this tendency to avoid, to delay, to put off, it is amplified. It is not a personal failing, dear friend. It is a universal human experience, a glitch in our otherwise brilliant operating system, and understanding it is the first step towards reclaiming your power. So, let us dive into what is really going on inside your amazing brain. The leading research in this field, particularly from Dr. Timothy Pyshal, a professor of psychology at Carleton University in Canada, tells us something truly profound. He says procrastination is not a time management problem, it is an emotion regulation problem. Yes, you heard that right. We procrastinate not because we are lazy, but because we are trying to manage difficult emotions. When a task, any task, triggers negative feelings like anxiety, frustration, insecurity, boredom, or even just plain confusion, our brain seeks immediate relief from those uncomfortable sensations. Think about it. That looming presentation might evoke fear of failure. Cleaning out the garage might spark feelings of overwhelm or dread. Our brain, in its infinite wisdom, or perhaps its immediate gratification programming, says, hey, I do not like this feeling. Let us do something else that feels better right now. This is where the brain's limbic system, often called our emotional brain, comes into play. It is ancient, powerful, and designed for immediate survival. When it perceives an emotional threat, like the discomfort of starting a difficult task, it can override the prefrontal cortex, which is our rational, planning, decision-making center. So, your rational brain knows you should start that report, but your emotional brain is screaming, escape this discomfort now. And often, the emotional brain wins, at least in the short term. Dr. Pychal's research shows that when we procrastinate, we are essentially engaging in a form of mood repair. We choose an activity that offers immediate, albeit temporary, emotional relief. Scrolling through Instagram, watching a TV show, or even doing another, less important task, these all provide a fleeting sense of comfort, a distraction from the negative emotions associated with the actual work. The problem, of course, is that this relief is short-lived. The original task still remains, and the negative emotions often return with a vengeance, compounded by guilt and self-criticism. Another contributing factor is something called temporal discounting. This is a concept explored by behavioral economists, which highlights our brain's natural tendency to prefer immediate rewards over future rewards. When it comes to procrastination, the immediate reward is the relief from discomfort right now. The future reward, like the satisfaction of a completed project or avoiding a last-minute scramble, feels distant and less compelling in the moment. Our brains are wired for the here and now, and overcoming that takes conscious effort. This is also why perfectionism often goes hand in hand with procrastination. If you have a high standard for yourself, the fear of not meeting that standard, of failing, or of not being perfect can generate intense negative emotion. To avoid that feeling, you avoid the task altogether. It is a protective mechanism, albeit a self-defeating one. So, if procrastination is about emotion regulation, what can we actually do about it? How can we break free from this cycle? Here are 3 concrete things you can try tonight or the very next time you feel that familiar urge to put something off. First, acknowledge and name the emotion. When you feel yourself resisting a task, pause for a moment. Do not judge yourself, just observe. What emotion are you trying to avoid? Is it anxiety about the outcome, boredom with the process, fear of not knowing where to start? As Pikel suggests, simply becoming aware of the specific emotion you are trying to escape is a crucial first step. When you name it, you can begin to disarm its power. You can say, I am feeling anxious about this, and that is why I want to scroll through my phone. This simple act of identification creates a tiny bit of space between you and the impulse. Second, practice the tiny steps, or 5-minute rule. Break the daunting task into the absolute smallest, most manageable action possible. For that presentation, it might be just opening the document. For the garage, it might be picking up one item. Then commit to working on it for just 5 minutes. Tell yourself, I only have to do this for 5 minutes, and if I still hate it, I can stop. More often than not, the sheer act of getting started, of building that initial momentum, will make it easier to continue. The brain likes completion, and even a tiny step can trigger a sense of progress. Third, embrace self-compassion, not self-criticism. When you catch yourself procrastinating, your first instinct might be to call yourself lazy or incompetent. Stop that thought in its tracks. Research by Dr. Kristen Neff, a pioneer in self-compassion research, consistently shows that being kind to ourselves, especially when we are struggling, actually increases our motivation and resilience. When you beat yourself up, you only increase the negative emotions, which then fuels more procrastination. Instead, offer yourself the same understanding and kindness you would offer a dear friend. Acknowledge that this is a difficult human tendency and gently encourage yourself forward. So the next time you find yourself avoiding a task, remember this. You are not lazy. You are simply experiencing a very human, neuroscientifically backed attempt by your brain to protect you from discomfort. By understanding that procrastination is an emotional regulation strategy, not a character flaw, you gain the power to gently, kindly, and effectively redirect your brain. You can acknowledge the emotion, take a tiny step, and offer yourself compassion. This approach is not about forcing yourself into action, but about understanding your inner landscape and navigating it with greater awareness and grace. Procrastination is not a sign of weakness, but a signal from your nervous system asking for a kinder, more conscious approach. This has been Niall and Moon. Your chart is not your destiny. It is your invitation. See you next episode.